Thank you all for coming. I'm going to give a speech on travel. When I was asked to pick a subject that I thought I was credible in, I thought of a few very different things, but I believe out of all of them that I am most credible in the subject of travel. Ever since I was very young, I have been a traveler, and from my home state of Ohio down to Florida or over to South Carolina, maybe we'd head west to Montana. It seemed like it never stopped. And during all of these trips, I learned tons of life lessons and tons of ways to make travel easier. And traveling is like a secondary education system, I believe, to the school of life. And it's just a step further than moving out of your mom and dad's. It's an adventure to broaden your mind. And traveling can test you in so many different ways. For example, for many people, leaving home can be super stressful, and then add catching planes and driving on busy 2-lane highways and running out of money, and it just becomes easier to sit at home. However, for the adventurous, that's just a part of the experience. It's just another story to tell. As I stated before, I have been on many very different trips in my short lifetime. I've pretty much traveled all the different ways possible by train, plane, foot, and car. All of the different methods of travel have added to my knowledge of travel, each one teaching me different lessons. Now I'm going to share some of my personal experiences that I have had on my trips and give you a few tips on how to make your experience as fun and as easy as possible. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is plane travel. I remember many times as a child being woken up super early to head to the airport, arriving at the airport 2 hours early as a minimum, as my grandpa would say. That's my first tip, is always show up at least an hour before your flight, especially at large airports, where gate changes are really frequent. One thing you should think about before leaving is the weight of your bag. The more that your bag weighs, the more you're going to pay. So therefore, my next tip is to pack light. You're going on a trip, not moving there for 6.5 years. Another memory from most of my trips is my grandpa carrying a manila folder with all of our paperwork in it. And when we had it, we were doing fantastic. But when we didn't, things got really crazy. And so my third and final tip for plane travel is to always keep paperwork, your cell phone, and your ID on your person. This will really reinsure that you always have the information that you need in the airport. So next I'm going to talk about train travel. And this is one of the methods that I have not very much experience in, and especially in the others. I've taken 2 trips by train so far. One from South Bend, Indiana to Chicago, Illinois, and then one from Chicago, Illinois over to Montana, into the east entrance of Glacier National Park to meet up with my family. On both of these trips, we showed up 2 hours early, just like the airport. However, the checking in of the bag process is much easier than at the airport. But there were also a lot of bags that looked very identical and to one another in the train. On a train, there are always people getting on and off, which makes it much easier for someone to accidentally grab the wrong bag. So my first tip on train travel is to always mark your bags with something distinctive to make it easy to recognize. During the trip to Glacier National Park, we decided to just sleep in our seats upright. And although it is not advised, a friendly suggestion and one of my tips is to sleep in the viewing cart. The seats are 3 times as big, and there's an amazing view the whole time you're there. Another important tip is to know, when traveling by train, is to know and locate where multiple bathrooms are. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about foot travel. During the summer of 2014, I was able to take a trip of a lifetime. I was accepted into an outdoor program at North Carolina Outward Bound. And our group, this was my first moderate hiking expedition, and our group covered 39 miles in roughly 5 days, hiking the Appalachian Mountains. On this trip, we carried pretty heavy bags, and we learned tons of leadership skills and life lessons. When preparing for a trip like this, you must get as physically ready as mentally ready, because you need to mentally prepare yourself to shower, not shower, use a real restroom, or even see a motor vehicle for almost a week. When packing, you must think of everything. From my experience, you can never have enough socks, bandanas, and always buy biodegradable baby wipes. Believe me, if you buy a bunch of them, you'll thank me. The most important thing to think about when traveling on foot is your surroundings. For example, when traveling in the right direction, or are you traveling in the right direction, on the correct path, and are there animals around that could hurt you? Another very helpful tip from my experience would be to put your wet clothes in a dry bag and sleep on top of them, or use them as a pillow to dry them. Two birds with one stone. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about car travel. I have the most experience in this department of travel, and I love to road trip no matter who I'm with or where we're going. However, my all-time favorite traveling buddy would have to be my grandpa. He has taught me almost everything I know about traveling. When getting ready, I can always hear his voice in my head checking off all the things that I might need in case of emergency. So my first tip is just that. Check your vehicle, add winter clothes and cat litter, and keep water in your car just in case. When I was young, I was very impatient. I would ask when we were going to be there at least 10 times every hour. Eventually, my grandpa started lining out trips, saying we will make it here for the day and there for the next. This I highly recommend if you're traveling with kids. They will want to keep going until you accomplish it. And my third and final tip is don't text and drive, talk on your phone, or look at your phone, period. Your life is more important, and the guy next to you is more important than responding to somebody right away. All right, thank you so much for coming. Please answer the post-op questions on the survey. Thank you very much.